Are you tired of getting terrible teammates in your ranked games? Are you tired of getting blamed for things that aren't your fault? Are you tired of just being called a chink? Have you played so much that your teammates have given you AIDS? Then take a break and try Raid. Yes, Raid Shadow Legends. Yes, I know you've already heard about Raid, but I still have not been paid. So you're gonna hear about Raid one more time for my aid. Good graphics, fun gameplay, unique champions, making even the impossible become possible. And the best feature is no more teammates. Download Raid today. And if you guys get 3,000 downloads, I'll make one of my old rant videos. Khazix is one of the most popular junglers in League of Legends. His ability to be able to assassinate and his unique evolution mechanic make him one of the most frustrating junglers to play against in the game. However, when Khazix first came out in the game, he was not a jungler. In fact, most people actually played him in lane. The main reason was because his W used to proc his passive Unseen Threat. When this mechanic was removed, lane Khazix pretty much disappeared, and any Khazix players who did try to play him in lane did not find much success. All except one.
My name's Specky. I play Khazix top lane on EU West. I usually hover around Master tier. My peak this season was 300 LP, and my peak last season was around 550 LP Grandmasters. I think I've played at least 1,000 games every season of Khazix top lane. I think you should play Khazix top lane because it's very different from most top lane champions and very different from most assassins because you don't go for singular one shots. And it's very fun to play, and you actually learn a lot about matchups. It started off by me not liking jungle, but now I think it's better top lane than jungle, to be honest, because Kha'Zix is such a scaling champion. And I legit think Kha'Zix scales harder than Kale if you play it without Q evolve and you play with Phase Rush. So I think that the extra gold income from top lane makes it a lot more worth it because you can carry any game once you get to like 4 or 5 items.
The biggest problem with Kha'Zix in lane is that he has a very poor laning phase. Kha'Zix's main ability is his Q, and his Q does a lot more damage when the target is isolated. When the enemy is around minions and such, it is very hard to get isolated Qs. Not only that, Specky decides to play Kha'Zix in the top lane. Top laners are all bruisers and juggernauts. These champions have extremely strong early games. So how is Specky able to survive in this lane?
The worst matchups are probably stuff like Aatrox, Akali, Darius, things with a lot of AoE and GP and poke. But things like Garen and most range tops and all-in tops, boosters like Jax, Irelia, Camille, are very easy actually, because you can stealth their auto attacks and get multiple combos off. You get one combo off where they get two auto attacks off, and then you win. And you have 6 seconds of stealth. Then you just kite them out with Phase Rush. Once you get level 6 and Tiamat, because if people are hiding in the range creeps, you can E on top of them, Tiamat mid-air, and W mid-air to kill the range creeps, and then you get an isolated Q on them. Then you can follow up the fight with ultimate and just chase them down. And you win the all-in because Kha'Zix damage is insane.
One of the strangest additions to his actual build is Muramana. Muramana is built on almost no one these days. It's an item that takes a very long time to scale up, but Specky consistently buys it in certain matchups. What makes Muramana so good on Kha'Zix?
I go tier when the lane is pretty much unwinnable and you're going to need to max W anyway just to get the heal, etc. For Shen, Renekton, Aatrox, etc. You're just going to want lane sustain versus Ornn, Maokai, all the tanks as well. Because you're never going to be able to kill them, you're not going to be able to contest them in the lane. So just go there and try to scale. To just out sustain them and try to survive. If you survive and get to Muramana, it's such a cost effective item because it gives you so much damage for 2,400 gold. But you're so useless before that. You just pray that your team goes even and that you don't die over and over. In a 1v1, you oftentimes play very reactively. You play passively and wait for a mistake or an overstep. Muramana gives you, for 2,400 gold, gives you around 80 attack damage. And just on the auto Q, the unique passive Muramana gives you plus 350 damage around that because it applies twice on your first auto attack with your passive. So even if you're 0 and 5 and you complete Muramana plus Duskblade, you can go one shot someone that's 3 levels higher than you with auto attacking Q. And there's zero counterplay to that if you just arrive from stealth. So Kha'Zix top lane is a hard scaling pick that usually works with most team comps and into most team comps, where you struggle early game and then you come back. It's mainly just see it as a kale. Keep farming, silent as much as you can, but usually don't go for that many solo kills until you're ready, until you have your items, you're level 11, maybe even 16, and then it's 1v9 time.
With a scaling champion like Kha'Zix, you would expect Specky to take something like Conqueror to be able to stay in the early game. And while Specky does occasionally take Conqueror, for the majority of his games, he almost always takes Phase Rush. What makes Phase Rush so appealing to Specky on a champion like Khazix?
Phase Rush usually just helps in the short trades. You can get off your W and Q, and then you auto attack, and then you just run away from all their damage. You run into a bush, get your passive stack, and then jump them while they have no cooldowns. And once I learn to play around it, I can hardly play without it. And I just feel like Kha'Zix doesn't need the extra damage from Electrocute. It's very overkill. And it just allows you to travel so much further in your R in team fights. During the early game, I usually try to set up a slow push towards me. Versus melee champions, I always let them engage the trade, retaliate with W, auto, and Q. Heal back up some of the damage they do to me, and proc the face rush to run away. But early game, during the very early lane phase, you usually have to give up a lot of CS. Falling behind happens to me pretty much every game because I get beat up in lane. Just try to pick up a lot of farm, and once you get a couple items, it doesn't matter how behind you are because you do so much damage to isolated targets. You can usually pick up some kills and get ahead. Getting behind is something that you should expect playing Kha'Zix top lane with Phase Rush. But once you have Dusk Blades to your Dirk, it's usually very easy to pick up. You can still beat up a lot of the squishy people on the team. If my team is very scaling, I need to win lane, I go Conquer and Q Evolve. Healing you get from it and the early AD is actually really insane. You get something like 30 extra damage on a Q with Conquer fully stacked at level 1. So your early game is very insane. You get really strong early game, but you don't scale nearly as well. And you kind of need a Q Evolve to make use of the Conquer. And then I go R Evolve if they have a lot of mobility, W Evolve if they're very non-mobile, like a lot of bruisers and tanks. Mainly, I think it's evolution order that a lot of people do wrong. I'm picking Electrocute, which I don't think is good. I'm building Black Cleaver. I've told a lot of other Kha'Zix mains to try Phase Rush, and most of them stick to it forever. With Phase Rush, I go R Evolve first every game. E Evolve gives more mobility in fights. I find the slow is very fucking overpowered, but the E allows you to kill multiple people.
Now, with Specky's philosophy of having Kha'Zix as a scaling champion, obviously you're going to need to do really well in a team fight. Team fighting is one of the hardest things to do as an assassin because everyone's just going to be looking out for you and trying to CC you and blow you up. Kha'Zix is not played in the same way that other champions are. A Kha'Zix player's full value is gained when he gets resets on a team fight. That is a lot more difficult to do than just going in and blowing up one person. So how does Specky approach the most difficult aspect of this champion?
Team fighting is my favorite part about Kha'Zix. I think that's where it shines. Late game team fights. With the Phase Rush and with the R Evolve, you are so safe. You can go into the backline. You can basically act as a pseudo tank because you take so much pressure off of your team. But oftentimes, approaching a team fight always start with an R. Never jump in. And then you can often jump out after your auto Q instantly, so you don't have time to react. And then there's someone who's half HP. And then you run in with R again, get to reset, and then you keep on going. It kind of spreads panic. It makes people spread out so you get those isolated cues. And it gives your team info for where they are. If you engage with E, there's this big chance you get CC'd or they have time to react to it. Make sure where all their CC is coming from, how it can hit me, and just trying to play around it. See if there's a Lulu. Oftentimes, I know she's going to instantly W me. So then I try to proc face rush before she does that. So then I run away very fast doing the polymorph. So there's a TF with gold card ready, and then just do an auto attack in the Nia way to waste the gold card, and then I can go in again while the CC is down. And as I said, it spreads panic if you're running in there. So people spread out, and you easily get isolated queues. I hardly ever go for one shots because it's very hard with Kha'Zix actually. His single target burst, if you're not snowballed, is not super high. If it was, I think it would be very overpowered because his ultimate doesn't do any damage. And an isolated Q is oftentimes a luxury, especially in a 1v1. So that's why you have the 3 different re-engages to be able to go in over and over and kill people. If Kha'Zix could one-shot someone like a Talon, he would be insanely overpowered. You can't split push Kha'Zix. He has very low tower pressure since it's very squishy. And he can't really trade under the tower because he usually loses out on those trades. So late game goals is always just 5v5 front to back team fights. Either peeling assassins of your carries by one-shotting them when they jump in, or staying by your carries, and then once their front line jumps in, you go into their backline with R. And then you're spreading chaos and distracting their backline by yourself.
Basically, Specky is like a member of ISIS. He goes in undercover, blows up some innocent people. Sometimes he gets blown up himself, but you know what? That's the cost of being an ISIS Kha'Zix. Now, the higher elo you go, the better AD carries get at positioning against assassins. What does Specky look for when he's looking for picks on high elo AD carries? It's the same thing that terrorists look for when they're looking for openings: human habits.
Mainly by looking at people's movements. just seeing as how they react to stuff. And throughout the game, you can usually see like how people react to you jumping onto them, or how people react to a Khazix randomly appearing in front of them. Mainly if their support is like going for one of your other teammates, or if one person uses an important spell like a CC, you can usually just instantly go in. If you're playing Serath, you learn how people dodge. If you're playing Kha'Zix, you learn how people react to you, them not knowing where you are and reappearing in your face. An AD carry might have a tendency to kite upwards, and while their support might have a tendency to just stand still. I know their AD carry is going to move upwards, so then I can go in on their AD carry.
Here's your build on Kha'Zix. Start Longsword and Refillable Potion if you're confident in the matchup that you're going up against. In a matchup that outsustains you, you can go Sapphire Crystal and Refillable Potion instead and max W. Or you could go for Corrupting Potion if you're not planning to buy Tear during the game. For your first item, start either Tiamat or Tear. Tiamat gives you the wave clear that you need to be able to get those isolated Qs in lane. Tear is for those sustained matchups that are harder to win. If you decide to go with the Tear build, you go right into Muramana. Your first two major damage items are always going to be Duskblade and a Serrated Dirk. This is your first big power spike on Kha'Zix and makes you incredibly strong. It is only after you complete your core items do you start to actually buy tier 2 boots. For your late game options, you have a variety of different choices. Yumu's or Edge of Night are a must after you finish off your Serrated Dirk. You can go Maw of Malmortis or Mercurial Scimitar based off the enemy composition and how much CC they have. Either one of the Last Whisper options helps you absolutely shred squishy champions in the late game. And for your sixth item, if you're getting blown up a little too quickly in the team fights, you can go either Deadman's Plate, Maw of Malmortis, or Death's Dance as a final tank item. For runes, go Phase Rush, Mana Flow Band, Transcendence, and Scorch. For your secondary tree, go into the Domination tree and take Sudden Impact with Ravenous Hunter. This setup is designed for scaling and gives you enough early game power that you can actually trade back during the laning phase. For your rune stats, take double Adaptive Force with Armor. If you're in a really tough matchup, you can swap out one of the Adapted Forces for another 6 Armor. You can also go with this Conqueror's page if the rest of your team scales incredibly well and you just need to win the early game.
I think it's a very high skill cap champion. I'm still learning stuff like all the time. I'm still learning new tricks and stuff, and learning new ways to approach fights. But he's very easy to pick up and very easy to get good at, but very hard to master.
Thanks for watching. Thank you so much to Specky for doing the interview. You can check him out at twitch.tv/lolspecky. Link will be in the description below. You can check out more videos like these in my channel. You can support the channel by sharing, and subscribing. If you really want to help out the channel and make a big difference, going to the description and checking out my sponsor link will go a big way to helping me out. And that's it. Bye.